I want to first of all say I'm glad to be at UC Irvine. I met backstage with Chancellor Drake and with the head of the college Democrats, Jose Quintana, who just spoke. He said I was supposed to do this. How am I doing? There are a number of people in the audience that I want to recognize, including Representative Susan Davis, Representative Grace Napolitano, Representative Loretta Sanchez, Congressman Matt Sherman, two congressional candidates, the mayor of Irvine, Suki Khan, and Jay Chin. Thank you all for being here. I want to say a few words about each of these candidates. I'm doing everything I can to try to help re-elect the president and to try, although after his performance last night in the debate, I don't think he needs as much help. I thought he did great. But it's very important to realize that, particularly in California, because you are the state of the future, because you represent every hope we have for living in a world of shared prosperity and shared responsibilities. A world where we embrace our diversity, we're proud of our identity, but we think our common humanity matters more. It's really important that we get the best Congress we possibly can to make the most of the next 4 years and to turn back the reactionary tide. I have tried to be a friend of California. When I was president, I came here 29 times in just my first term. Because of all the economic challenges that California faced back in '92, I have been through this before. And I just want to say a few things to set the stage for the candidates here and those in the audience and what we're facing and the choices before us. Because I remember what it was like. And I saw California flat on its back, and I saw California come roaring back to lead America into the 21st century. First of all, we live in a world, not just a state, just as a nation, a world, full of enormous possibilities represented by you and by UC Irvine and by the finest system of public higher education ever created that has been under assault now for years from the economy and from the Republican Party. And here's what I know. What I know from my years as president, from a dozen years as a governor, from a dozen years traveling around the world working with my foundation. Here's what I know. We're all in this together. It works a lot better than you're on your own. Shared prosperity and shared responsibilities and a shared sense of community works a lot better than trickle-down economics. Evidence works better than ideology, and arithmetic works better than illusion. And creative cooperation is better than this constant conflict. And people are the most important resource of the 21st century. If you look around the world, and around America, and around California, all the challenges we face can be put into three big baskets. There's too much inequality in terms of earning capacity, access to jobs, access to small business capital, access to education, and access to health care. It is bad for the people who get the short end of the stick. It is a severe constraint on the future growth of California, America, and every poor country in the world. We need less of it. There is too much instability. Look how fast the financial crisis spread around the world. Why do terrorists hit targets that claim fewer casualties than a given day in any major war? Because they know if they can scare everybody, they can shut things down. Why is there so much conflict over ethnic and racial and religious differences and over gay rights issues? Because people's identity, if it is negative, that is, in order for me to be who I am and think good well of myself, I have to be against somebody else. It shuts things down. And in spite of our Republican friends denying it, there is an unsustainability about the way we produce and consume energy and the way we use local resources, because climate change is going to compromise your future unless we find a way to make it an economic opportunity for global rebirth. Now, so if you believe this, you got to elect the right people, starting with the president and going down to the members of Congress. If you believe that cooperation works better than conflict, if you believe that shared prosperity is important, I'd vote for Prop 30 and I'd vote against 32. It depends on how you see the world. But look, America's got a lot of advantages. Its biggest advantage is youth. We're younger than Europe, we're younger than Japan, in 20 years we'll be younger than China. Having lost it, I can tell you youth is important. We know diversity is important. That's why President Obama was right to lead young immigrants who were brought here when they were young in the United States to the It's important. And there are choices to be made. The President has an economic plan. It basically is designed to produce shared prosperity. It has already given us 5.3 million private sector jobs in the last 31 months, 32 months. Twice as many as we got in the 7 years of the Bush administration that were free of recession and the crash. It works better. Manufacturing jobs growing for the first time since the 1990s. 250,000 more people working, making automobiles. Exports up 45%. We are moving in the right direction. 4-year high in home ownership, 4-year high in automobile ownership. Shucks, even gas prices are finally coming down. You've got the refineries working again, and you watch, there'll be a 50-cent drop in gas prices by the end of the year just because of the backlogs being worked through. We're moving in the right direction, but we've got a lot more to be done. We need to find a way to deal with our debt that doesn't wreck the future. The Obama plan, which is the Democratic congressional plan, cuts spending about $2.50, counting interest savings for every dollar in new revenue. But it asked those of us in higher income groups who got the benefit of the economic growth of the last decade, when the middle class was shut out, and the benefit of the tax cuts of the last decade, when the middle class was largely shut out, to kick in a little money and pay what they did when I was president. When, I will remind you, we had more millionaires and billionaires than ever before, but the bottom 40%'s income rose in percentage terms as much as the top 20% for the first time and the only time in 30 years. That's what they're doing. We got a health care plan that needs to be implemented. Will it need to be improved? Yes. And I'll say more about that in a minute, but look, we've already had the first time in 50 years, inflation under 4% in healthcare costs. In no small measure because of that law. We've had $1.3 billion in refunds repaid to American people, not counting California because the reports aren't in on you, so you know it'll be way higher than that. Because 80 to 85% of your health insurance policy now is to go to your health care instead of profits or promotion. You want to know why all these Republicans want to repeal Obamacare and why the Democrats don't? Because they hate that requirement that 80 to 85% of your insurance premiums have to go to your health care. got 3 million people under the age of 26 who are covered with health insurance for the first time in their life because you can carry children on their parents' health insurance plan. So the choice here is clear. You want to finish the job and implement it and keep working on high quality and lower inflation in health care, or do you want to just scrap it and go back to the old system, which crippled America? Last week, for the first time, I have seen this in a newspaper headline, something I have been saying for 4 years, was a headline in USA Today. One of the big reasons people did not get a pay raise for the entire last decade is that employers who wanted to give them a pay raise had to spend the money instead paying for their employees' health insurance premiums. We cannot afford that. We need to keep this law. They will do it, and the other guys won't. Every single one of them. One final thing I think is important, and on this ground alone, you should make sure every candidate on this stage and the members of Congress and the candidates that I introduced who are here deserve to be reelected by you for this reason alone. In the last decade, college costs went up twice the rate of inflation. America, which had ranked at the very top of the world from World War II through the 1990s, and the percentage of our young people both going on to college and getting degrees, still ranks near the top in the percentage of you that go to college, but has dropped to 16th in young Americans aged 25 to 34 who actually finish. Why? Because of the cost, because of the debt, because people think I cannot borrow any more money, I cannot stay in, I will never repay the debt. Now, the most important thing that has been done in the last 4 years that nearly nobody knows about is the student loan reform law, passed by Congress, signed by the President, to be fully implemented next year. Listen, you just look at it. These are real people up here that are going to affect your lives. This is up to the Congress. And it's up to the next president. The law says this. If you qualify for a federal student loan, under the new system, the government will send the money directly to UC Irvine to be distributed to the students who qualify. That will lower the interest rates as compared with the old system of just letting the banks make the loans at market interest rates and guaranteeing them against losses, okay? Then even more important, you get to pay that loan back if you choose as a fixed small percentage of your income for up to 20 years, which means nobody ever has to drop out of college again because they're afraid they can't borrow more money. In other words, we can go from 16th back to the top of the heap in the percentage of our young people who actually get degrees. And it's incredible. It also means something else. Suppose you love California and you're a native and you want to go out into some smaller school in the Inland Empire and teach school for 3 or 4 years where the property tax base is not great and you may not make as much money. Suppose you get a medical degree and your debts are over $200,000, which is average in America, and you want to go to an inner city health clinic where you can't make a lot of money. Suppose you'd like to serve for a year or two as a police officer or a firefighter. You can do it now because your loan repayments will be determined by your job, so you don't have to fix your job because of your loan repayment. This is what you do. And I'm telling you, most young Californians do not know that this is the law and that next year it will apply to everybody who gets a student loan. Now, I know 2 people know. Julie is the head of the House Education Committee in the California Assembly. And Alan is the head of the Education Committee in the State Senate. They know real people go to Congress and make real decisions that affect real people's lives. I'm telling you, if you are here and you are having a good time and you intend to support the president for re-election and you want this direction, you need to send these people to Congress because they will protect the future of American education. Say a few words about them individually. First of all, I thank Julia Brownlee for introducing me and for what she said about women's rights. It is true that women